What is going on, everybody? It is Dylan with DFS, bringing you a brand new video. Today's video going over the Thursday night showdown between the Bills and Dolphins. Miami currently a 2.5 point favorite. Over unders at 48.5. Now, if you're new to the channel, or this is your first time in the channel, this looks a little different than how most. I do a spreadsheet just because I do a DraftKings and Fanduel breakdown. Instead of swapping between sites, I just put it all in this spreadsheet for you guys, and then I update notes, up to game time. So if you guys are interested in these spreadsheets or my main slate, anything like that, the link for Discord is in the description down below. So Tyreek Hill, most expensive on DraftKings, second most on FanDuel, which is kind of shocking. Josh Allen's not the most expensive in this slate. Worries me a little bit. Obviously, if you go and look at Tyreek Hill's numbers since joining Miami against Buffalo, they're not the best. If you go back to his days in Kansas City, it's a whole lot different. He's had a couple, and by a couple, I pretty much mean one good game against Buffalo since joining. It is concerning, but in this matchup, you have to remember this isn't the same Bills defense. Two new safeties, injured linebacker, new corners, a lot more differences here. But in this matchup, I think Tyreek Hill definitely can benefit. And then Josh Allen on both sides, yeah, just too cheap on DraftKings, in my opinion, in this slate. I looked up Josh Allen's stats against Miami, and this is crazy. So the last two seasons, which is 5 games, 2 regular season, and then a playoff game against Buffalo. Granted, Tua wasn't in the playoff game. Josh Allen averages a total of 392 yards a game. That is through the air and on the ground. He averages over 300 passing yards a game in that, averaging over 3 passing touchdowns. Shockingly, only 1 rushing touchdown against Miami. But the numbers are ridiculous. You got to understand Miami has some injuries as well. I would look at the Jalen Ramsey. I don't think Ramsey's going to be out, but if he is out for whatever reason, that's just a like for that much more. Devon Achane, if he is out, we get some great value in Jeff Wilson and Jalen Wright. If he's in, Devon Achane is still a amazing play. His numbers against Buffalo, although very limited, are good, right? Last week, Devon Achane pretty much got a majority of Miami's red zone work. 2 red zone targets, and I believe all of the red zone carries, but I have to double check that. But Devon Achane was just used quite a bit in the red zone, so gotta imagine if he plays, they have the decision to not play him, right? If he plays, they plan on using him, right? They think they can use him in some shape or form, right? And it's a good matchup for him. You saw Arizona use James Conner in multiple ways to beat that Buffalo defense. Miami could do that with Devon Achane. Tua, I just have as a fade. Honestly, on DraftKings, the price isn't bad. 9,400 for starting quarterback is not bad. Starting quarterback with Tua's ceiling, right? We kind of know that his floor is lower than some, but his ceiling is very high. And with Mostert out, Achane possibly out, you could like Tua more. It's just on FanDuel, it's very tough to pay that salary. I mean, granted, we might have 2, good priced players out, but still, Tua's numbers against Buffalo haven't been good. Now, like I mentioned, this is a different Bills defense, but I just see too many scenarios where fantasy points are given to other players in other ways. Tua could still have a really good game throwing over 300 yards, but getting 3 touchdowns and being a top play on this is challenging. Miami's got to come out with something. Tua is 1-6 against Buffalo. They're able to put some points up against Buffalo, but for the most part, the Bills' offense just moves the ball against Miami. So, doing that offense, McDaniel's got to figure something out. I don't know what it is. Hopefully, it involves Tyreek Hill and some cheaper running backs, but that's just me. James Cook, I have as a fade. I liked him week 1. Week 2, kind of concerning. You saw Travis Etienne struggle. against Miami's run defense, although Tank Bigsby had a really good game. It is concerning. James Cook did get the second most red zone carries last week, which some people were worried about. Ray Davis coming in, possibly stealing that work. But James Cook did get more red zone carries than him. I just, in this matchup, don't like it, especially on DraftKings. It's pretty expensive. On FanDuel, like it's almost manageable, but I'd still think in this one, like getting Tyreek and Josh Allen, you have to understand, if you get them both on DraftKings and you captain one, you're pretty much spending half your salary there. On FanDuel, you're spending over half your salary on Tyreek and Josh Allen in this one, so you have to get creative. I think there's some good opportunities elsewhere. Jalen Waddle on FanDuel, I like his price quite a bit, $11,000. I still think there's ways to get Waddle and Tyreek and still not need Tua. Like, you're hoping for the passing or the receiving touchdowns, which then Tua gets a passing touchdowns. But I think receptions and yards for those two would be, would outweigh Tua's fantasy points. Now, I'm not gonna play both without playing Tua. Like, it's not smart. I'm just gonna stack them both if I'm gonna go down that route. But I don't mind playing Waddle every now and then versus Tyreek Hill just to get off of Hill. Like I said, his history with Miami against Buffalo isn't the greatest. Waddle's slightly better, I guess, but neither one really stands out. Dalton Kincaid on FanDuel, I like on DraftKings. I think it's too expensive. You saw what Miami's defense did to Evan Ingram. They pretty much shut him down. I think, Kincaid and Dawson Knox get on the field together. Not all the time, but sometimes. They get on the field together. Kincaid gets away from it, but you still have to realize Miami, if Ramsey is in, has Ramsey and Fuller, two really solid cornerbacks followed by some good safeties. That's concerning for that. So, FanDuel, I could do with the 9,500. I could get with it, but DraftKings, I think it's too expensive. Now, already mentioned Raheem Mostert out, but Khalil Shakir, right, on DraftKings, $1,000 cheaper. Khalil Shakir got a red zone target. Third out of, Keon Coleman, Dalton Kincaid as far as pass catchers in snaps, but Shakir did get some good work, right? Out of all the matchups, right, Shakir lined up in the slot, I think it was over 80% in the slot. He's got the best matchup if it was, man coverage one-on-one. He's got the best matchup, so I like Khalil Shakir for that aspect. Keon Coleman, same thing, a red zone target, but he's going to see a lot, right? He didn't line up once in the slot. He's going to see all of Ramsey and Fuller, which is going to be some tough matchups. So I'd rather go Khalil Shakir in that aspect. Curtis Samuel, just the snaps weren't there, right? Matt Collins out-snapped both Curtis Samuel and MVS, although targets weren't the same. Matt Collins, I think, got 2 red zone targets, and one of them was a touchdown. So I'm going to lean away from Curtis Samuel in this one. I just think he's way too expensive on DraftKings. FanDuel, the price isn't bad, but on DraftKings for what he did last week, no, I'm not going there. Both kickers I do think are in play. I wouldn't recommend playing both. I'd play one or the other in your lineups. You go back and look, and obviously these are 2 really good offenses, right? 2 really good offenses. You go and look at the red zone offense for both teams. They were very good last season. Miami's red zone defense last season and, even last week when they did get there, is a concern. They allow a lot of scoring. Now, I can't really pick one or the other. If you go back and look at the history that they have against each other, extra points are where they get their points, right? Every now and then they have a game where they get points through field goals, but you see a lot of it just through the extra points. So I recommend not playing both. You can, right? Anything can happen. Both offenses can kind of tank out in the red zone. I would just recommend playing one or the other. One of them's probably going to get 10 plus points in this one. I just don't know, which offense is going to struggle in the red zone or what defense is going to play really good in the red zone. Both defenses are out for me as of right now. I look at the Bills secondary against Miami, right? I still think the Bills have some really good corners, but obviously the linebacker issue and the safety issue is a huge concern, especially the speed that Miami has. It's a concern, so I don't want to play the Bills there. The Dolphins, I mentioned how good Josh Allen is against Miami. It's almost kind of the same thing where Miami has a really good team. And if I had to pick a defense in this one, I would pick Miami. I just don't want to pick a defense in this one. I think it's going to be a really good scoring game. Ray Davis, I mentioned, is a value for me on FanDuel. He's not at that 3K pricing on DraftKings, so I'm not going to put him as a value there. But on FanDuel, 7,500 is a value piece to me. And he has a touchdown upside in this matchup, right? I think week 1, they went James Cook. Mentioned the Bills' red zone offense. Mentioned how bad Miami's red zone defense has been. Usually it's typically Josh Allen running it in. You don't want him to continue to do that. Eventually he's going to get hurt running the ball in and jumping the way he does and dive, stuff like that. Eventually he's going to get hurt. So in this one, I like Ray Davis for the touchdown upside on FanDuel. And then Juanu Smith, 2,800 on DraftKings, 7,500 on FanDuel. This one I like. You go and look at kind of the yardage and what the linebackers gave up for Buffalo last week. It benefits the middle of the field. So I like Juanu Smith. With that, I like Braxton Berrios at his price point too. I think both these guys that are going to be in the middle of the field are values. Now, the concern with Juanu Smith is when he got on the field, right, his targets per route run were pretty good. He just did not get on the field as much. He was out snapped by 2 other tight ends, so that is concerning. But I do think they brought Juanu Smith in to be the pass-catching tight end, so that would be the route I go there. Jeff Wilson, he is a like if Devon Achane is out. If Devon Achane is in, he's a value, right? I think Devon Achane, they're going to use him. Obviously, he won't be 100%, but he'll be good enough to play. That's why they would play him or not, right? Is if he is good to play, they don't have to have restrictions to him. So if Achane is out, then Jeff Wilson's alike. That's where I have him at. I kind of have Achane out, but you never know. We just saw CMC out after reports, nothing really reporting he was going to be out. So Jeff Wilson then becomes a like, and his price point at both sites. I think if Achane is out, you're going to see Jeff Wilson in 85% of lineups. He's way too cheap for a starting running back. Regardless of how good or bad, he's just way too cheap against a defense that I mentioned James Conner did a lot too. With that, if Achane's out, Jalen Wright is a value to me, especially on FanDuel. He's 5,500 on FanDuel. He's a great value piece. If you wanted to stack some high pieces up here, he's a great piece to put in, right? I had a Twitter discussion with somebody today going over, Jalen Wright. My view on Jalen Wright, he looked good in the preseason. His college numbers were good, right? I'm not a full-focused college football watcher. The numbers looked good for that. Now, in the preseason, I did get to see it. Like, I actually watched. Jalen Wright looked really good. So, I think if Achane's out, Jalen Wright has a good... He's probably going to get a good amount of volume. Now, I still think Jeff Wilson is going to be the primary back. I would assume the red zone back in that case. But I wouldn't be surprised for Jalen Wright to get a Bucky Irving type of role to where he gets out-snapped clearly by the RB1 for the team, but still has a really good game for the snaps he does get. So that's why he's a value for me. And then Braxton Berrios, I mentioned, is the other value for me. So I hope you guys did enjoy this video. I will be having the running back for the main slate video going out later today, and then the wide receiver video tomorrow, and the tight end video on Friday. So if you guys are interested in the main slate videos, that will be coming out later today and later this week. If you guys are interested in joining us, like I said, that will be in the description. I yet again just always will continue to say thank you for the support. I'm trying really hard to get this content out for you guys every week, trying to get at least 4 videos out, if not more. So I'm trying to get that out. So I'm trying to just give back with the support that I've been given so far. So thank you guys for that, and I'll see you in the next one.